My 25 female. Dad passed away when I was very young, and my mom married my stepdad Lee when I was 5. Lee is wealthy, and my mom never had to work, and I was given everything growing up. The only thing we never received was acceptance from Lee's family. They were not pleased that Lee chose to marry a widow with a child. Lee and I were close, and he continued to care for me even after my brother, Sam, 18, was born. My mom clearly favored Sam and didn't really focus much on me. Lee's relatives warmed up to my mom a little with the birth of Sam, but I was still treated like something invisible. Sam was often invited to Lee's relatives' houses to play, and he and I are not very close. I decided to go to university overseas, and Lee gave me enough money that I didn't have to work or worry financially. He also was the only one calling or writing me regularly. I talked to my mom and Sam like once every couple of months during my university days. After graduation, Lee wanted me to come home, but I wanted to work and be on my own for a bit. The virus happened and I was unable to fly back. When the lockdown was over, my family came to visit me once and left when I preferred to continue working where I am. Lee came to visit me a few more times by himself. A few months ago, Lee passed from a disease he never let anyone know he had. In his will, he left his businesses and house and most valuables to his relatives. My mom almost nothing, though she can keep what he has already given her: 2 cars, jewelry, and cash, $60,000. My mom never legally married him. Sam, $150,000, and the rest of the money to me. It was 7-figure USD, a life-changing amount. Turns out, Sam is not Lee's biological child, which he found out only recently. My mom and Sam were mad, of course, and demanded that I share money with them. I said I'm willing to put the money in some low-risk investments and we can split the gain. Not good enough. They want at least 25% each of what Lee left me. I argued that it's not like they are left destitute. Sam can still go to a good university if he cares enough for further education, and my mom has enough money to get her own place, and the investments will give us all long-term incomes. They called me greedy and planned to take legal action, but Lee's relatives told them that they could make my mom and Sam's lives very difficult if they tried to give me a hard time and go against Lee's wishes. I intend to do as I promised them, splitting the gains from the investment with my mom and Sam. I won't let them touch the money Lee left me though, because I don't trust them to not go through that money in just a few years. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You aren't his biological daughter, but the daughter he chose. Splitting the gains is already nice from you, but don't give your mother too much, otherwise she will pay a lawyer to sue you. Not the a-hole. The best way to honor Lee's wishes is to let them have exactly what he wanted and no more. They aren't entitled to what Lee plainly didn't want them to have. Not the a-hole. Keep the money you inherited and do what you want with it. And please talk with a tax advisor for your country before proceeding with your plan to split the gains from the investments. Remember that because those investments will be in your name, you're likely the one to be liable for the taxes on those gains. Update. I talked to a lawyer. I told her my plan to continue living overseas and that I planned on going low contact with my mom and brother. She said I should set aside money for my mom and brother in the form of a trust fund. They will be paid X amount per month, the dividend from low-risk investments, but can't touch anything else. I don't trust them both with a huge amount of money, so this way they will always have a steady income in their lives. I know this is against Lee's wishes, but I just need to take care of them this last time. I already have a will set up that everything will go to charities. I make decent money at my job, so I set up a will a while back. My family knows this when everyone visited me that one time. Sam still has a year of school before university, so he should still be living with my mom in the meantime. My mom has a room in a high-rise that Lee gave her a while back, so they should be fine with a place to live. I plan to support Sam's university expenses. He's not academically inclined, but in our culture, he will definitely be pushed to go to university. I'm still working with my lawyer to see how that can be without having to get too heavily involved. As to why Lee never found out before about Sam. My mom is mixed race, while both of her children's fathers and Lee are the same race. Sam and I look like her, so it's hard to tell. Don't know why Lee decided to investigate after all this time. He was to blame for Sam being spoiled too, with how much he had been letting Sam spend over the years. My mom is 10+ years younger than Lee. Maybe that's why she had the affair. She has a university degree, so she can find a job if she wants. Her jewelry should be worth near 6 figures though, so there's always that. Lee's relatives took carrying out his intentions seriously. Ever since Sam became problematic in his teens, the relatives tolerated him for their blood connections. Now that he is not, my mom and Sam are instantly in their bad book, I guess. Once this mess is more settled, I'm thinking of asking my workplace for a relocation. A change of scenery would be nice. I like my job, so I think I will continue working, but maybe my vacations can get a little more extravagant from now on. So I, 28 female, dated my ex, 31 male, for 4 years. Over this period, I got to meet his family and got along very well with everyone, particularly his brother's eldest daughter, 15 female now, 11 when I first met her. She was incredibly shy when we first met and had trouble making friends, but we had a lot of the same nerdy interests, so I've taken her out on outings related to those interests, like cons and trips to the hobby stores, along with my group of friends, who all adore her and see her like a little sister. Being around people who share her interests has made her more confident, and now she has a ton of friends her own age in addition to still going with us to cons. Her parents have even thanked me for helping her come out of her shell. Well, around 2 months back, I discovered my boyfriend and one of my friends, Hannah, 27 female, had been having an affair for almost a year. After a lot of tears and both of them begging for forgiveness, I broke up with him and Hannah was cut out of the friend group. All our other friends were disgusted by what she did. I was worried this would mean I wouldn't be allowed around niece anymore, but her parents told me that they had no issues with me remaining in her life, since I had become a family friend. Here's the issue. I didn't tell niece about the cheating, but she must have put 2 and 2 together when X and Hannah started dating immediately after our breakup, and Hannah was no longer part of the group. Now she's refusing to talk to either of them. My ex reached out to me for help, and I told niece that she didn't need to be angry at her uncle on my behalf, but she said that she was just disappointed he'd do that to someone, and she'd be mad even if it were not close. I said he still loved her, but I let the conversation drop after that, as I didn't see what else I could say to mend their relationship, other than downplaying what X did, which would feel like lying, since I'm still incredibly hurt over what happened. That was not good enough, and X has called me a vindictive bee over the situation, and accused me of using a kid to get back at him. Hannah is also upset because she has also become close to niece as part of my friend group, but now niece is acting extremely cold to her. They both think I should stop talking to niece altogether because I'm obviously poisoning her against them. Niece's parents say I'm in the clear, and niece's mom has confided that she'd rather I stay in her daughter's life over X. But I can tell X is hurting over this, as he really does love niece. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He is reaping what he sowed here. Cheating hurts more people than just the person being cheated on. I guess he's finding that out now. Not the a-hole. She is 15 and can make her own decisions about who she doesn't want to be around. Your ex is just mad that there are additional negative consequences for his actions. Not the a-hole. He made his choices and, surprise, they had consequences. She is 15. She isn't an idiot. And I'd be more concerned for her if she knew and thought it was completely okay that he did that. He just needs to give her time and not push it, and maybe she'll reach out to him. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like your relationship has been really good for her. I'm female 36, has 4 children, male 22, female 21, female 9, and female 3. My oldest children are married and recently had children. My son and my daughter-in-law have a 10-month-old son, and my daughter and son-in-law have a 1-year-old daughter, and she's currently pregnant. The problem lies when my son and daughter-in-law confronted me and my husband on why we are much closer to my daughter and her family. When my daughter gave birth, she wanted me in the delivery room with her. So I knew her firstborn since the day she was born, and I and my husband are obsessed with her. The exact opposite was for my son and daughter-in-law. They didn't even tell us their son was born until almost a week after. That was fine since that was their choice. What made the boat tip was when my family would ask when we could meet the baby, and they told us we couldn't see the baby until he was older. This did confuse us a bit, since her parents were able to meet him the same day he was born, but we didn't question it. We didn't meet him until Mother's Day, this year. My son and his family decided to visit with the baby. The baby was cute and did try and bond with her, but my daughter-in-law didn't even let us hold her. Anyways, I was showing my son and his family around because my house has changed a lot since I last saw them. Everything was fine until they saw that my daughter's children had a playroom, bedroom in my home. They asked if their son had a room in my home, and I said no because this is the first time I've seen him in person. My daughter-in-law got upset and said that it didn't matter because I should be treating my grandchildren equally, and for the whole day I've been showing my daughter's kids more attention. I then told her that me and my husband have been trying to bond with their kid, but we weren't even allowed to hold him. and that she was crazy to think he would have a room here when we probably aren't going to see him again until Christmas. She ended up getting upset and dragged my son and their kid out of the house. I thought everything was fine, until on Facebook I saw her making posts about bad grandmothers, which were directed towards me, and I started to feel bad, so read it. Am I the a-hole? Edit. In no way have I done anything to my son and daughter-in-law. I and daughter-in-law were very close until they got married. I didn't want her to marry my son because of the way he treated her and carried himself. I've tried to get my son help, but he refuses, so that's why our relationship is strained. Once they got married, they weren't very close to me anymore. I've always invited them over and let them know my home is always open, but they declined any offer and stopped seeing my family until Mother's Day. Not the a-hole. I don't know what daughter-in-law expected. You don't really have a relationship with their child, and that was not your choice. Not the a-hole. You're closer to the grandchild that you see regularly and have been allowed to have an active role in their life. It'd be different if you just hadn't bothered to see your son's child, but you've tried, and they've actively blocked you from doing so. Sister-in-law just found out that her actions have consequences and doesn't like it. Not the a-hole. They keep the grandchild from you and expect you to have a relationship with him. That makes no sense. These relationships are two-way streets. They aren't fostering. Relationships aren't give and take. They're give and give. Sounds like you're trying to give and they just want to take. I'm finding myself in a bit of a family drama, and I'm not sure if I'm the one at fault here. I'm a 26 female, and I've been engaged to my partner, 27 male, for over a year. We've been meticulously planning our dream wedding, which is scheduled for later this year. It's been stressful, but we're both super excited. Now on to the issue at hand. My younger sister, Emily, 24 female, announced last week that she's pregnant. It was a surprise, but our family is supportive and we're all happy for her. The problem? Her due date is just a few days before my wedding. Emily asked me to move my wedding date so she could comfortably attend and enjoy the day. She fears she'll either be heavily pregnant or just have given birth around my wedding date. I was shocked by her request. We've booked the venue, sent out invites, arranged catering and everything else. Plus, our wedding date has a special significance to us. It's the anniversary of when we first met. I refused and told Emily that while I understand her concern, it's not feasible to reschedule everything now. She didn't take it well and said that I'm being selfish, prioritizing my wedding over her first child. My parents are trying to stay neutral, but I can tell they're upset with the situation too. Now I'm getting the cold shoulder from Emily and some passive-aggressive comments from my relatives. I'm feeling guilty and second-guessing my decision, but also feel like I'm being asked to give up a lot here. So, am I the a-hole for not changing my wedding date for my sister's pregnancy? Not the a-hole. I've been planning this day for 18 months. You'll only have been planning it for 9. Could you move your delivery date up a month or 2 instead? Not the a-hole. She's pregnant, not ill. Women are perfectly capable of doing things up to and including on their due date. They're also perfectly capable of going out and about with a newborn, if they're comfortable with that. Unless it's a high-risk pregnancy, or there are other complications. She needs to suck it up. Her pregnancy doesn't make her more important than you. Not the a-hole. That's not how life works. You don't get to ask someone to just change their wedding day because your circumstances changed. Keep your date, and tell your sister to jog on and focus on preparing for motherhood. My wife, 26, and I, 27, have a friend, let's call her Nancy, 26, who works for an airline company in the U.S. She works within the company and has access to flight records and personal information. My wife and I were hanging out with Nancy a couple weeks ago, and she kept casually bragging about how she had been searching up celebrities and had found out emails, phone numbers, multiple addresses, and other personal details. Nancy claims to have found information on over 20-plus celebrities, including some huge names. My wife and I both mentioned that it probably wasn't a good idea, and if she got caught, she'd likely be in some big trouble. A few days after, I was hanging out with another friend, let's call him Tony, 27, who also works for the same airline company, but in a different sector. I had mentioned what Nancy had been doing, and he agreed that it was a bad idea and she would end up in pretty serious trouble for looking up such information. This Friday, I received an angry phone call from Nancy, who was yelling about how I had told her boss what she was doing, and she had been fired for looking up personal celebrity information. I explained I had mentioned it to another friend, but I didn't think he would tell anyone. It turns out Tony had mentioned it to his girlfriend, who ended up telling her best friend, who works above Nancy in the company. This led to Nancy's boss finding out and consequently firing her. Tony's girlfriend found out that Nancy had searched over 100 celebrities and had accessed information including family contact info and addresses. My wife is split and says I shouldn't have spoken about it, but also agrees that what Nancy was doing was pretty creepy and this was a consequence of her bragging. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Oh, the irony. She wants what she told you to stay private, even though she violated the privacy of so many others. She ducked around and found out. Not the a-hole, and good job. You exposed a glorified stalker. Even though you didn't do it intentionally, Nancy either knew or should have known the consequences of talking about something like that. And she's choosing to take it out on you instead of holding herself accountable. She's lucky the airline didn't get sued, and if she wrote down or otherwise kept any of the contact information somehow, she's heading for an eventual lawsuit herself. Not the a-hole. You didn't get her fired. She got herself fired. I feel like that is an important thing to point out. I'm sure you're not the only one she bragged about too, and it would have gotten back to her boss eventually. Unprofessional and a breach of privacy. Not cool.